MC with your Premiere Pro video tutorial series. Topic of this video, timeline basics. Before we get right to it, I want to point out the 4 frames that you work with. Actually, they're called panels, 4 panels that you work with. And what I would like to also show you is zooming in on these frames. So let's do this. Um, this is This is the playback for our timeline program right here. If I hit the tilde just to the left of the number 1 on the keyboard, I get a full view of the selected panel. So that was playback from the timeline. If I go down to the timeline itself, I can zoom in on that. I can do that on each one of the panels as they are open. So if we are in the effects panel, we do the same thing there. This is going to come in handy a little bit later. For now, I simply want you to know that they are present, and you can do that. We're looking at the timeline today, and a couple of things I want to point out on the timeline. We're going to start with this. This is a time indicator. Time indicator shows us where we are in playback for the footage that's on the timeline. I can scrub forward and backwards. Somebody's playing a violin extremely loud here. It's getting in the way, so I'm going to mute this audio frame. We're on audio 1 line. M stands for mute, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the M button so that I can scrub back and forth and not worry about that noise. Okay, so the time indicator, scrub back and forward. If for some reason you need to get the time indicator to a precise point, you can simply click right on the line, and there's that jump to function. Okay, that definitely serves you, especially when you're working with a very long project and you move back to the beginning and you want to work at something at the beginning. You don't have to go all the way, find the time indicator, and drag it back. You can simply click and you've got it at your disposal. I want to draw your attention to this item, this bar that moves us along the timeline. It does more than what I'm currently showing you. If I squeeze these 2 boxes together, we have a box on either end. If I squeeze that right box and pull in, notice what happens. I'm actually zooming in on the timeline. If I pull it apart, I'm zooming out from the timeline. This shows in a couple of ways. My footage shrinks, but also the measurement on the board up top changes as well. What's important to understand is, especially when you're zooming in, this is going to zoom in with relation to your time indicator. So if you want to zoom in on a specific piece of footage, you want to set your time indicator to that spot, then go ahead and zoom in, and you can get right to it. Okay, so this is zoom in, and this is zoom out. So we can move through our timeline by scrubbing back and forth. I want to show you other areas in which you can move through your timeline. You can also scrub with this number. Notice this number is the exact same as this number. This is your playhead position. And currently, what this playhead position tells us is we're at the 1 minute mark, 12 seconds, 18 frames. And what I can do is I can hover on top, I can click and hold, and I can pull back and forward on that. Okay? And then notice what I'm doing. I'm scrubbing through without actually grabbing hold of the time indicator. The advantage to that is more precision. I can move frame by frame if I drag slowly. With the time indicator, I can do the same thing, but this is more of a global movement. This is more precise. And there's going to be times where you want that. Let me do this. Oftentimes I use this for audio, so I'll turn this audio back on. Let's play for a second. Okay, so the violin maker's plucking. Notice this is not picking up, is it? Oh, there we are. Top here. So oftentimes when somebody's speaking, if I'm trying to cut at a precise moment, and I'll show this in a later video, I'll hover back and forward. You can actually recreate the person's speech, and you can find that exact spot that you want to edit on. Okay. There is one more tool that provides the most precise positioning of the time indicator, and that'll operate on a frame-by-frame basis. And let me demonstrate that by zooming into my footage all the way. So I'm zoomed in all the way, and my measurement at the top, this is frame by frame. If I wanted to cut a single frame out of this, I could do that. And all you have to do to confirm that is take a look at the playhead position, and it lets you know. Instead of dragging my arrow key, instead of dragging my time indicator, if I use my arrow keys on my keyboard, this is the bottom right of a keyboard or a MacBook Pro, if I were to hit the right, I could move forward. I'm hitting the arrow key one at a time, and I'm moving forward one frame at a time. Okay, so for precise editing, that's something you want to take advantage of. Okay, while we're here, I'll tell you what, let me zoom out here for a second. We're going to take a look at two tools on our toolbar here. Okay, and the two tools are the selection tool, which I've been operating throughout the first two videos, and this razor tool right here. Let's talk about the selection tool first. Selection tool, you can move vertically with your footage. Okay, so if I have multiple clips, let me bring another clip on here. If I have multiple clips here and I want to stack those, I can do that. Right now this is video 1, video 2, video 3 line. You are not limited to these 3 lines. If you wanted to go a higher level, notice what you can do. In this upward area here, if you were to just set more footage, it creates an additional line. I'm going to bring this down. I'm actually going to delete those. I'm doing a right click to delete those tracks to get back where we are. Audio, 1, 2, 3 as well. Notice when we bring our footage in, our video and our audio is connected. And when I brought that first piece of footage in, video 1 and audio 1 lines contained by the two of those. If I bring in an additional piece of footage, notice what happens. So the video 3 is going to match with the audio 3 line. And if you're ever in doubt which is matching with which, if you click it, you can see that both the video and audio are selected and they move together. Okay, the video the selection tool also moves horizontally, forward and backwards along the timeline. One of the neat editing aspects of this particular tool happens when you hover over the beginning. See what's happening here? This arrow is turning to a bracket, and basically what this is a trim tool. I can trim the front of that video. Okay, so I've literally cut that off. I'll trim a little bit here as well. And I can do the same thing at the rear if I choose, or if I want to really trim a lot all at once, I can zoom out. Really shorten those clips. Let's get them all to end at the same place. You see the snap to function, one way to create precise editing. Okay, so in addition to trimming, you can also recapture the footage that you've trimmed off. So take a look. I'm going to click. I'm going to extend to the entire length of that clip. Remember, Premiere Pro is non-destructive video editing. This means that when you trim a clip, or if you cut a clip on the timeline here, it doesn't affect the original footage. It is non-destructive. If you wanted to edit within a clip, let's pick a clip that's long. Razor tool is where you want to go. Okay, so I can cut, go back to my selection tool. I could pick this middle portion out, move it over. Okay. Normally when I cut with the razor tool, I find the precise moment. Let's see what we can do here. We're moving. Here we go. So we've got the violin maker playing the violin, and then the camera just quickly pans away. So before it pans away, keep that. And I could trim it if I was using the selection tool. In this case, I want to cut it with the razor tool. So there's my cut. I select it with the selection tool, and if I hit the delete on the keyboard, it goes away. Okay. Command Z puts it back. It's undo step. I can move it around. Maybe I want to move that over to here for whatever reason. Moving individual clips around, if you've been paying attention, you notice there's a special snap to function here. It'll snap to the time indicator, or it will snap to other footage on the same timeline. Sometimes what I do when I'm in a hurry, or I want to move quickly, I guess I should say, if I click in between two clips and then hit the delete key, notice what happens. Delete, everything snaps right to. Again, precise movement. I don't need to worry about if I have, for instance, if I have this clip way out here, I know it's there, and I'm doing some edits here. Maybe I'm going to pull a little off here. I want that clip now to snap on. I can click, and it pulls right in. So the more that you become familiar with this, the more that's going to work for you.